Good morning, everybody, and welcome to ESO Daily. I'm your host, Mysticraven. All right, guys. So today I want to go over configuration, especially the Bobo builds. I know a lot of players in the community, frown, and I mean frown, about players using different type of configurations in this game. It's sad. It's getting better. It's getting better. And it just takes time. But today, one of my viewers had this, major problem with, I'm going to pick up the dailies here. And I'm going to go over quite a bit today, actually. One of my viewers had a problem because he's running a Bobo build. And he's like, people just don't want me to run a Bobo build. Now, I'm on the PS4 today, so let me go ahead and open up the app and stuff and check out the comments. But, I'm like, oh my god, it's... Some of the toxicity in this game can be just so... they just don't know. I mean, sometimes you try to educate people, and you do what you can. And it is what it is. I mean, it's real. But Bobo can work. I'm going to show, and I'm going to explain that today, and we'll get into it for sure. Robert, morning. Hey, morning, Sherman. Welcome to the stream. Morning, David. So I'm going to pick up the dailies. What is that? Bloodroot Forge. Probably queue that. Normal. Fungal Grotto. Easy peasy. And Celine's. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to go to my house and go to my target dummy before I queue this. I don't know if I'll get a queue because, once again, I'm a DPS. But I am on my PS4 today because I use this build in a lot of endgame scenarios. Right now, it's dealing the highest amount for my Nightblade because the way I have it configured. But this is my playstyle. It's not going to be everybody's playstyle. And once again, I always say, play to your playstyle. That's going to have a lot of strengths and weaknesses in, your type of, getting configured with your rotation and things like that. So, excuse me. Now, it has been a minute since I've been on this. I've just been really busy. Excuse me. I am very sick again today. I'm trying to get over this. Morning, Helly. I have the same problem with my Bobo. Yeah, Scott, I think it was you is why I'm addressing this. Because a lot of players are just ignorant. Right? They're just ignorant. You can't help a lot of people. You just can't. And I'm going to go over a couple of the intentional designs that the dev... And then once again, I give it up to the dev team a lot in this game. So the first thing I want to do, and I'm going to cover this, right? We're going to go into skills, and we're going to go down to the passives, and we're going to go specifically into the bow. Now, I'm going to specifically point out this passive. That's Hawkeye. Dealing damage with a light or a heavy attack increases the damage of your bow abilities by 5% for 5 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. Now, a lot of problem with the bow dual wield configuration is you only get one throughout the rotation. Why? Because you primarily do a heavy attack with the dual wield, because that in its passives have, the chance for finishers and other applications. That's why the bow dual wield, it's a good setup. Not saying it isn't. But they never stack the 5 times. They never get it. Ever in their rotation. If they'll be lucky if they can maintain 2 at the most. The Bobo build allows this to stay a little more consistent once you get your rotation down. I'm going to demonstrate how and why this is. So I'm not going to put any procs on or anything like that. But basically what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to do a light attack along with, I'm going to follow up with Endless Hail. And then I'm going to do 5 and then show you guys the difference here. So I'm going to hit once and drop. Okay. So now you're seeing 954, right? With 1523. 1523. Now notice when it dropped off, it scaled down. 917 went from 954 to 917. Why? Because the passive doesn't stay active during its duration. Okay, so once the passive falls off, the damage modifier is then cut. All right, so once again, if I don't do anything, right, and I just drop it, you look at 1523, 917, 917. All of a sudden, I start stacking this. Okay, now you see those modifiers start going up. See, 827. Right? So once I get up to 5, and we look, now we're at 1101 base, right? So the base modifier, now you see it trickle down, went from 1101 to 917. Why? Because the passive drops off. The passive drops off. So that's my point. Like, the Bobo keeps Hawkeye more consistent, amplifying the damage modifier for the bow abilities, right? Bow dual wield cannot do that, right? It's just simple. Plus, we take a look at what? Mechanics, right? Mechanics become a very, very important issue in dungeons because guess what? Most of the time, mechanics go against what? Melee. That's why in this game, you know, you want some shielding system. You want something, you know, that gives you a little bit more survivability, relying on passives, configurations, if you're going to be a melee player or you're going to be up in the thick of. Even if you avoid mechanics, a lot of damage is set against the melee. Range has a lot more flexibility with that. So a lot of people are always asking, oh, well, why would you go, you know, with this type of configuration for your build? Well, that's just very simple. For example, here, when I take a look at my lethal injection, right, it just crit for 1627, right? We'll do it again. Okay, there's 10 base. 10 base. 16, right? So here's the deal. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use my arrow spray. Now it's 24, right? That's without any of my other procs. Now add Hawkeye to it. Okay, there's 16 base. Leave it up. $27. $17. Now check this out. Now I'm going to add the lightweight beast trap. I'm going to hit my proc. Get my Hawkeye up there. Reapply my proc. $30. Now once everything's set, I can get a 35, and that's with low penetration. Once piercing's added or major fracture is added, and then I get spell power cure and a warhorn buff, I hit 45k on what? Lethal injection. So yeah, 1.1 second cast is yielding between 35 to 45k. And what? People are what, going to ignore it? You know, that's the thing. That's what I'm always saying. I could stay at a range build, apply, and I'm getting 31 right there. It's noticeable, man. I'm telling you. It's just noticeable. Okay. I can keep weaving throughout my rotation way more consistently. And keeping Hawkeye up a lot more frequently. So when I go ahead and I hit that and I get this, I don't have to worry about it. I can stay completely to the back. And a lot of people don't understand that. Like Endless Hail. I did put Endless Hail on the vid, but once again, am I getting that boost after that Hawkeye? Yes. Am I going to get 5 procs with it? Now I can go ahead and lay my dots. Keep everything in its uptime up consistently. See, once I do that, it refreshes. So you see it at the bottom right-hand corner. It works like two-fanged snake in that essence. You see the countdown, 3, 2, 1, drop off, right? Drops off. All of a sudden, I go ahead, I reapply. There's the stacks. Same thing with two-fanged snake. Once I go ahead and I get that, I can go ahead and, apply. I can't get all these Hawkeyes with the bow dual wield. That's what I'm saying. I'll be lucky if I can maintain 2, right? And the damage spike is going to trickle. It's not going to remain. Okay? So once I get 5 and I drop this, we see the 1827 crit, but look, 1101, then all of a sudden drops down. 1927, 1523. So the base value gets cut by what, 200 and something, almost 300. That's significant, right? It's significant when you're looking at the bow build. The devs were smart. The devs actually implemented the system to say, okay, this is a boon to you, but you have to maintain it. And how do you do that? Well, the only way you can maintain 5 stacks, is literally bow build. You have to use a bow build if you're going to maintain 5 stacks, right? That's just the way it is, right? And it can be finicky because I'm still having problems trying to maintain my rotation because you're in the thick of things. Mechanics play a part. So once again, just food for thought, man. I always tell people, bow builds can work in this game. It's designed to. Let me go ahead and read some comments. Bow can work really well. I played my Warden for a while, so I could level bow faster. Right. Totally tried to play a bow build. Couldn't get over 12k DPS. Yeah, that's the one major thing. They're enchanted. You literally have to use dots in durated effects with the bow build. Because if you're literally trying to use direct effects, your DPS is going to suffer dramatically for that. And that's what I said. It's a finicky thing. This is why I'm using my proc set. I'm using the Venom set. Why? Because my weaves are dealing extra damage. And I'll show it to you. I think I ran with a DPS guy last night that had a bow in Wayrest too. If it wasn't bow, all he used was the bow, then right, exactly. Bow can get up to 28 to 30k DPS on a parse in dungeons. You will see a little more depending on the difficulty in trials. Right, exactly. I hit 35k on my bow Warden. I believe it, Scott, totally. I was only hitting 28 before Sherman's game and gave me a few tips yesterday. Right, exactly. That's the thing. We can learn, right? There's ways to always improve your build configurations, and the devs were smart. The devs, they knew, okay, if you're going to use a bow build, how do we incentivize it? We'll give a 5 stack. Same thing with two-fanged snake. You must be talking about the bow I released. How much DPS do you have? Well, it depends. It's going to be depending on encounter. That's what Sherman's saying. Because on here, this is a lot of people always ask me, why don't I do parses on target dummies? Because they're target dummy, they're not a parse. Okay, I'm an MMO snob. I don't know if a lot of people know this. I'm an MMO snob, right? I'm aware what metrics are and what a parser is. This is not a fucking parser. Excuse my French. This is not a parser. I could hit 50k on this, and is that going to be reflected in a dungeon? Guess what? No. Never. Ever. It's not. In all of my years, if I was in a raid and someone said, I'm parsing this on a target dummy, I would boot you from my guild. I want your metrics. I want your metrics. Now, the nice thing about some of the pros and cons with the metrics in Elder Scrolls, so we have FTC and we have metrics or combat metrics. And the nice thing is you get to see the dips, right? But when you take a look at the combat log is when you take a look at uptime, right? Which is kind of important, but they don't give the consistent value prior to your dipping during mechanics. So anytime you watch a streamer, you can watch Gilliam, you can watch Outcast, you can watch anybody you want. When you're looking at their metrics, what you're taking a look at is the consistency or even the dip during the mechanics in their parser. So that's reflected, right? That's a reflected aspect. Recovery becomes important, right, throughout your rotation. right? So Outcast probably has the cleanest recovery I've seen in this game thus far as recovery point. He knows his timers, he knows his rotation, he's paying attention to this, and that's affecting his consistent without losing the dip. So, once again, people always ask me, I'm like, I'm not doing a clickbait video for morons. It's just the way it is. But let me get into this in my set here really quick, and I'm going to show you guys something. So I'm using the Venom set. This which is going to apply 4,435. I have a 50% chance when I deal a light or heavy attack. So, once again, I don't have a major fracture, so I'm just going to do a light, and you'll see it in white. 2,500. See that 2,500? That nothing in the yellow. That is the proc. That 2581 is the proc from my Venom. And that goes up to 4,000 every weave. So I'm picking up an extra damage during my weave rotation. Like I said, once I apply, get all the bumps, 30k almost right there. And I hit up to 40 something. But let's go ahead. We'll see if I can get a dungeon going down. So, we got Fungal Grotto 1. Celine's. Like, I am a former elitist. And a part of me is always going to be like that. Because, you know, I did all the content up until Wrath of the Lich King. I had all my legendary gears on every trial or every raid in that game. I also played Rift. My guild was like the third largest guild as far as in-game content at one time. So, yeah, I'm a little bit of a snob when it comes to metrics. And the importance of metrics. We don't have what I would really like to see in a metrics. And ZOS has stated they're never going to allow group metrics. I understand because it even gets more toxic. Believe you and me, that's why I quit doing it, because egos get in the way. And it really does. It's kind of a sad thing how egos can, you know, sometimes clash when you're, you know, in that type of gameplay or that setting. Because all of a sudden, people were like, well, I hit this last raid. Well, that's great, because you had your extra piece. But now, all of a sudden, you're going to ridicule the other person because they're still acquiring it. So long as we got literally the percentage of damage prior to Enrage Timer, I didn't care. Enrage Timer was the biggest deal. Like how much DPS, and we had add-ons that would tell us how much DPS had to be acquired prior to Enrage. It was that strict. Like the cutoff point, you know, from what we had to be at. In this game, I have yet to see something like there's alternative mechanics that can be skipped. I'm sorry. Say what? Because in games I played, it didn't matter how much DPS you were pulling. Mechanics always went percentage value, not skip a mechanic. Like, what? We're going to skip a mechanic? How in the heck does that work? Really? Wow, that's a new one. You know? That's a new one. Cool. Great. Excellent. So Zosa says, okay, for the ones who's struggling, we're going to add this mechanic. Or guess what? If you're dealing enough DPS, you get to skip it. Wow. Wow. Nice. Excellent. Way to go, Zos. You know, man, you guys are just really kind. Thanks for showing this. I am so tired of getting kicked for using my Bobo Stam Warden. Well, like I said, ignorance is whatever. Bobo has a much different rotation than most other weapon types, and it can work very well. Thank you, Sherman. I totally agree. Skeletons are not proper for DPS, but does help with a lot of rotation. Exactly. Amen, brother. Amen. And when you are in a dungeon and trials, each boss has different mechanics, so you cannot get the same DPS in all because of this. Endgame DPS meters for group that show each person's DPS will create a lot of bad things, and they add that I would never touch a dungeon or trial. Yeah, I mean, and it was toxic. World of Warcraft actually got rid of their group metrics. I don't know how I felt about that. I mean, I quit the game long before, and I get it because it was becoming toxic, and it was. Because I'll be honest, I expected I would take you in a dungeon, right? A hard dungeon, to see what your setup, your rotation was, and base it on the lower end of my team's parsing. Right, so I'm able. Not only was you able to see your metrics, I can see your metrics in a group parser. When I was in World of Warcraft, EverQuest 2, I had tools. I could see what you were doing when you were doing it. I had that capability, and you best believe you're going to hit that number. If you want in my end game, you're going to hit a number. It doesn't have to be the highest, but it has to hit what I need it to be at. Why? Because I know I can't get through the content if your rotation or your build's skewed. I know it. This game, I haven't seen that. I haven't. It's like you guys, they put too much emphasis on, certain situations. DPS is important. I'm not going to say it isn't. It is. It's very, crunching those numbers is important, because it helps get you through the content. Have they made it so stringent that it's an absolute no? The devs were... This game is so cool in that way. Like, I continue to play this game because of what and how the dev team implemented the system. Right? Take a look at your Hawkeye passive, right? Your proc uptime for your Hawkeye with a bow dual wield. You don't get more than 2. You can't sustain more than 2. You can't. You just can't. You can't. And the damage modifier drops off once the passive drops. Bow build can maintain it way more frequent. Hence, guess what? They're getting a boost to what? Their bow abilities and their weaving. That's relative. That's increased what? DPS. That's increased DPS. That's math. That doesn't lie. You can't make that up. It cannot be. You cannot make it up. It's just the way it is. Is it better than bow dual wield? I wouldn't say that. I'm just stating facts. Excuse me. Rock, morning, man. Yeah, it's just the way it is, guys. It's just the way it goes. Let's get this. I don't have a heal. Oh, there's people already here farming anyways. I hate this lag. To have my vigor on when I'm doing this. Yeah, I love getting rooted. Come on. Hit him.
From your sanctuary Anvanfell, I summon you, Lord Vegas Polar.
Stunned. Don't move up.
Nothing you can do will end this.
Junk. All right. I don't know if I'm getting a Q. Bad thing about DPS, man. I can't make this up. Morning, Sherman. Sorry I missed the stream yesterday. I've been using a Bobo in PvP for over a year. I suppose I could give it a go in PvE. PvE, it's good because of once you get everything with the Hawkeye, but that's why I use the Venom set. For me personally, I don't like. People are like, why don't you use a monster set? The Venom set is essentially my monster set, right? So every time I deal a light or heavy attack, I have a 50% chance to do what? Deal 4,435 additional poison damage, right? That happens every second. My monster cooldowns are what? Between 6 to 12 seconds? You know, I'm getting this more consistently, way more consistently. So essentially that's what I'm doing. Then I go ahead and I use the Krogs for my extra penetrating value along with my sharpen. So in this essence, it didn't benefit me to use Nirnhone, right? Why? Because I need penetrating value. So I have to maintain a certain amount of penetrating value, knowing major fracture or even potentially minor fractures applied with crushers. So I need that 18.2. I need to get as close to the 18.2. But I need to keep in mind that other players could be using other effects like Alkosh or Sunder or Night Mothers to do what? Reduce the amount of penetrating value I need. Once again, that's going to be a determining factor when you're taking a look at any type of damage. You have to pay attention to what? Penetrating value. Penetrating value is a necessity. So at the current configuration, I'm looking at 2.7 and 1.4. Let me do the math. 2752 plus 1487, taking into consideration 5,280 plus around 1,600 for crusher, depending on trait, and then on top of it, my CP allegation, which is 4,006. 33. So I'm looking at 15,000 penetration, right? With this current configuration, 15.7. Given the fact that Night Mothers can be added, which is what? Another 2,700. Oops. But anyway, so I don't exceed. As basically what I'm trying to do is I'm going, getting as close to the value without exceeding the difference. So for like 4-mans, this is good. In trials, I might have to take this down a bit. Because why? Because I'm using the Thief Mundus with this config. It's just that simple. I know this patch will try a Bobo build. I'm also going to make a Cancer Bomb Blade build. Ooh, nice, David. Yeah, dude, this patch, man. AoE, no caps. Dude, I can see it. Range combat is just the play style I'm most comfortable. I love tanking as well, but do not like melee style DPS. Been testing out the skill advisory, leveling my DK healer. So far, the skill advisory works very well for DK healer build. Nice. Yeah, I'm really happy with the skill advisory. I feel like, once again, this game's coming in. It's coming up into... It always could do these things, right? The problem of it is you had toxic players not understanding passives or, you know, trying to configure every class the same way. Damage types become apparent, right? Increased modifiers become apparent. Penetrating value becomes apparent. You know, so trait adjustment needs to be calculated. So I'm using the Thief Mundus. What do I need? I need more divine than I would, you know, with my 3 pieces infused. Why? Because I need to capitalize a little bit more on what? Critical rating. So once again, not all build configurations are going to be the same, and you're not going to yield the same results. If I put every Magicka class in the same set, am I going to get the same results on the damage output? Absolutely no. No, no, and no. And that is why there has never been a best in slot in this game, because those sandbox value numbers, right, take effect, right? This was intentionally designed that way. They did it in a beautiful way. The devs were just insanely smart about it. You know, how do we go ahead and maximize the diversity in the builds? Hawkeye is a prime example of that. Excuse me. The more I weave, the more my bow abilities and my attacks are going to deal. All right, no brainer. Bow dual wield. Can I sustain 5 stacks? Can I sustain it? Absolutely no. Absolutely no. So what happens to my bow damage abilities when they drop off? Whoop! They go tumbling down. That's fact. You can't change it. Neither can I. That's a fact. So can bow builds work? Absolutely. Absolutely. I play this in the end game, and my dudes were like, oh my. And I'm like, but the problem of it is, with this build, I have to sacrifice what? A stam ability for a magical ability for my proc. Right? I have to. There's no question for me to do it. I have to do it. So I have to lose somewhere. The devs are smart. I'll give it up. I have to lose somewhere. I can't be completely OP. I have to give something up to gain. I have to. It's just the name of the game. It's just the name of the game. I have to be willing to give up somewhere to capitalize. It's like sword and shield. They say it cannot do good DPS, and they're right, but with some extra dot swords and shields is good, about 1k less than the dual wield and DPS, right? Plus, on shield, you can add the different modifiers, right? Because you can stack the effect. You can use like a double stack effect, like dual wield can, and then you can use infuse trait to maximize stamina, or you can even go with divides, increasing what? Mundus effect. So there's a lot of application to it. You know, once again, the abilities are going to scale what? Stamina, right? They're going to. You know, it's not going to be as noticeable because of the passives to dual wield, right? Because the dual wield passives become apparent. Because when we take a look, we get the bonus when attacking, stun, immobilized, right? So we don't get that. But guess what we get in Sword and Shield? Sword and Shield, we get that nice boost to weapon damage right here. So you can add this to your class-based ability, especially with what? DKs and Wardens. And guess what ends up, because Warden has stam morphs, all of a sudden you put him in a sword and board, guess what happens to his abilities? His weapon damage is scaling up, right? That's what I'm trying to always tell people. You have to take a look at passives. Passives are important, right? That's a number that is there. It's apparent. It is. It's just that apparent. You know, if I go ahead and I hit this and I just slot both, guess what? 5% increase to what? My weapon damage. So if I put a board on and I use class-based abilities, do I have to use any of these abilities? No, absolutely not. But guess what I'm going to get? I'm going to get 5% increase to weapon damage when I have it equipped. So weapon damage will spike up, use class-based abilities based on stam, and then poof, increase by 5%. Constant, consistent. So yes, that is true. That is absolutely true. What bows are you using? Oh yeah, I'll show you that. That way you can put points into medicinal use, gourmand, and connoisseur whenever you like. Right. Hey, Lewis, morning. Mystic likes pink bows. Whatever, man. I do not like pink bows. It's like... Anyway. Okay, yeah. Let me show you the bows I'm using. So I'm using the Asylum bow, right? So I'm using the Asylum. When I deal damage with an arrow spray, I cause enemies to take 45% more damage from direct damage portions of my next snipe, scatter shot, or poison arrow used within 6 seconds. And then on my back for my proc, I have to maintain Swamp Raiders, because when I use a magic ability, I increase my damage, my damage of my poison disease by 450 weapon damage. Right? It's very significant. So basically, let's take a look at this. Poison injector, right? For example, prior 6522, right? Crit, right? Go ahead, click in the Swamp Raider, hit it again, 7-1. Sheesh. Yeah. 7-1. I went from 6-5 to 7-1. Now let's even get a little bit better here. Add this. 10. Let's even get a little bit better here. Add. Almost 11. Okay. $11,600. And that's without Hawkeye. That's without Hawkeye. $11,600 without Hawkeye. Yeah, they can kiss my ass. Sorry, excuse my French. People think I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, they can kiss it. They can kiss it. That's 11-6. 11-6 from 7-1 without Hawkeye applied. It's like, hello? Hello? Hello, Moto. Did you miss your call? I love it because people want to say, oh, well, the math. And I'm not going to put out names. I'm not going to whatever. I'm not going to throw players under bus. But they're like, you'll never see a Bobo mill because of the math. Excuse me? You guys don't know math. Excuse me? You don't know math. Bye-bye. See you. Ta-da! Bye-bye-bye-bye-bye. I use Master and Asylum. Yep. You're on a 5-3-2 config, Scott. And it works out. It does work. Ooh, Bobo build. I want to see Bobo Warden. Bobo Warden works. Like, that's the thing. Like, the cutting dive morph has been implemented to do what? Maintain, the rotation. The devs told us that during development, actually. The devs actually gave us that heads up during development. And people didn't take note of that complete oversight. It was complete oversight on players, whatever. It's like the dev said, the birds work in favor of bow builds. Hello. Look at my page. Added it yesterday. Maelstrom Master combo is good, but if you do not, Master. I love Asylum. I never, like, the one thing I didn't like about, like, certain effects from other bows, like Master Bow is good. Like, I like Master better than Maelstrom because of the applied effect to increase for weapon damage. That's my personal preference. But I was kind of like, it's situational and you're going to lose a stat, like an effect across the board when you do it. So it's kind of like, eh. But then all of a sudden, Asylum came out. I took note on that when all of a sudden, I'm like, that's 2 to 3 effects that's being applied. Not 1, but 2 to 3 effects. I want that bow. I've never wanted, like, a bow so bad. Like my Master Staff and stuff. It's good for PvP. But in PvE, I'm not getting as much out of it that I would like, you know what I'm saying? But then you take a look at, Maelstrom Staff, that effect for the light weaving is a perk. You know what I'm saying? It's that's what I'm always telling people. Asylums are easy to get, well easier than Maelstrom and Master, right? Way easier. The thing is, I had this build. I had the Plaguebringer build. And I've already had this build. But once Asylum came out, I knew I wanted to add it. Because guess what? I was already using arrow spray. It was a dot build. I already knew what I was doing. I was using the dots to keep my uptime on my Hawkeye more consistent. So I needed to keep my derated effects way more applied to reap the benefits of what? My DPS. So how did I do this? Like, I never had lethal arrow. I was trying lethal arrow, but literally this was never going to work in my rotation. All of a sudden, this one ability is dealing more than most players' typical rotation. Let's repeat that. This one ability is dealing more damage than most players' rotation. Why? Because of the Asylum bow with acid spray, right? It's just that simple. Even without my Swamp Raider proc, let's say if I was using Huntings, hypothetically, but let's just whatever. Once I throw out the Beast Trap, I get the proc, I get Major Brutality, I get this, and then all of a sudden I hit this, I'm getting 18-2 base, and that's without a crit. All of a sudden, I get Hawkeye up. I start going Hawkeye, all right? $32K! 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 Squeeze me. A 32K hit without Spell Power Cure, without Warhorn, and without Major Fracture. Dealing more than what? Most players' rotation. Hello, goodbye, see you, come again. Come again. Come again. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. And who would think? I would never. I would have, if you told me I was going to use lethal injection in a rotation, I would have laughed my butt off. Be like, yeah, maybe for PvP. I could see that. Maybe some PvE. During the dungeons, it's not dealing a significant amount, even with Hawkeye. But 45% now increased? Hello? Asylum anything is super easy to get than monster set sometimes. Yeah, I love it. I love the way the devs designed everything, as far as that. Like, I have the staffs. I haven't been using any of them. Once again, I'm kind of finicky when I'm going to do something like that. I'm like, yeah, sure. Been running through normal AS with players, never done it before, can get 2 runs. 32K is nice, but I'm looking for 12K DPS. Exactly. Maelstrom only better DPS with AoE. I come play from Australia. The lag and the lack of ability to animation cancellation will net. Yeah, dude, you know what, Enchanted? You're absolutely right. Oh my gosh. That was another thing me and my dudes were talking about. I can't believe I'm still in queue. Actually, I do believe it. Because of DPS. We were talking about, my one friend was doing, I want to say Maelstrom. Might have been Bet DSA. But anyways, he was talking about the lag was so bad, there was no way to keep up with what was going on. And I was like, see, that's kind of where I'm like, I'm kind of tossed, because I'm like, I get that we have to have incentive to push players to do like more endgame content, but it's not realistic for everybody. That's why I don't like building with certain things. I'm like, I want more of a realistic approach, because I don't know their internet speeds. I don't know their locations. You don't know their experience in the game, especially coming in as new players. These are all important factors I take a look at. Like when I'm making build videos. Like, I want accessibility at high performance, you know, for lack of. That's what my content's based around. Non-meta, because I don't believe in the meta to begin with. The meta is a total facade. It's a facade is what it is. And most of the meta players are mathematically challenged, right? They just are. I'm sorry. I mean, if you want to talk about math, don't talk to me about math. Please don't do it. You know, I'm the one that's been here correcting players' mistakes since I got here. Am I perfect? No. Do I make mistakes? Yes. Put me with fraction algebra, and I'll mess it up. I'll get an F on that paper every day. You'd put me in percentage math with diminishing values and stuff and all that? No. No, homie. No. I don't even have to try. You know, no. I don't think so. But these guys, man, I'm serious, man. Like, that to me was nuts. Like, I knew it, too. I was like, that's insane. I'm like, when we were in a dungeon, I was in a trial, and I hit 45K every, like, every 2.5 seconds throughout my rotation. Every around 2.5 seconds with a lethal arrow in my rotation. And I was getting a 45K hit. Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm keeping this. You guys can roll meta. You guys can roll meta all day. Have it. Have at it. Have at it. It's 8 to 10 in OZ, right? So back, Maelstrom Bow and front AS Bow get best of both worlds. Right, you can do that. Obviously, yeah. And once again, Hawkeye is going to maintain. Hawkeye is just going to maintain, right? We're going over that. There's no other way unless you're doing that to maintain. Once I do that, that 5 seconds is applied, but I got 2 seconds. All of a sudden, it drops. If I stop weaving, guess what? My damage goes down a toilet. So all of a sudden, I keep it up. Now I'm able to keep it up more consistently throughout my rotation. You see what I'm saying? And keep that uptime up. Why? Because I'm weaving consistently. That's all it is. So every other ability is doing what? It's a weave. Don't tell my girlfriends, but it's a weave, honey. It's a weave. Nah, yeah, I'm good. And like, if anybody ever wants to, like I said, I'm never going to put out clickbait. I will never in my life, and I'm going to probably end this stream because I'm probably not going to get a queue till my boys are on. I'm never, and I will repeat this, never going to do something on a target dummy and post parsing. No, never, and never, ever. I'm an MMO snob. I'm an MMO snob. There's no way I'm ever going to call a target dummy a parser, because it's no metrics. If people want to do it and they want to reflect their metrics or their parser to what the target dummy's doing, that's fine. That's fine. You're not calling that a parse. That's not real. That is not real. It doesn't move. It doesn't have mechanics. It doesn't affect what? Recurve time. Or recovery. It has no reflection of that, and it's not a parser. Alright? Please do not insult me as an MMOer by calling something stupid like that as a parser. take total offense to that. Ah!
The King of Worms served me poorly.
Let's go.
Will do better.
Stupid clan fears.
This will not finish me.
Come on, purple, 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 purple. What? Junk. Again. My RNG sucks. Sucks, it sucks, it sucks. But Bobo builds can work. Don't let people tell you. They're just challenged. If any content creator says a Bobo build can't work, they need help. They need to go back and go to school and check their math. Get a tutor. 5% per. It applies. You have to use derated effects, though. Bows, guess what? Majority of their effects are, guess what? Not direct. They're derated. They're derated. They're derated. Do you think the devs did that intentionally? Question mark. I was going to say after his morning stream, going to try for tomorrow. Yep, we're going to hope to get the collab tomorrow. So, yeah, Sherman, I'm planning on getting on Discord later tonight. So, you know, hopefully I'll see you online. I'm going to try to jump on the PC this afternoon just to make sure the Discord's working. So, you know, I got all the right information on the Discord. So, yeah, I'm hoping we can do that. Me and Killer Mech will be collabing on Friday night around 10 p.m. Mountain Time. Ooh, nice. Hey, man, if you switch out your proc set for Spriggans, do you think you'd get the same results? No. I would get a better... I could replace the effect with Caltrops, though. So I will tell you that. So let's say I replace Swamp Raiders, right? I could put Caltrops in this, and that would increase my over, like, it would give me another effect to be placed, right? So Spriggans would be a good set if you're not going to use Swamp Raiders, right? And you could replace the Delimitate, right, for that effect. But here becomes my problem. My problem of that is, guess what it does to my Lethal Arrow DPS? Whoopsie. Because Lethal Arrow does what? Poison damage. So I might be getting penetrating value, and I can offset that with the Mundus, because now I can take what? Like, you know, I'll still run the Thief, but now I can take those values up higher in my CP system, right? So I can drop down some of the CP allegation, offset that, increasing that damage, but that's not going to change the fact that Lethal Arrow, which is my prime ability throughout my rotation, right, is going to drop, you know, probably 7k or so, you know, with everything up, you know, not maybe 7k, probably around 3.5, something like that. But yeah, off the top of my head, around 3 something, you know, I'll lose. So using a set like Spriggans. Now every other effect could go up, right? So it could. But I would sacrifice the Lethal Arrow and my other poisoning damaging effects, because it's all poison and disease. Everything I got here is poison and disease. Acid Spray, poison damage. Poison Injector, poison damage. Lethal Arrow, poison damage. Arrow Barrage is physical, but I'm using what? the passives in the bow to increase this to apply direct. Relentless Focus, proc, disease damage. Power Extraction, disease damage. Shadow Silk, poison damage. You see where I'm going with this? Like, I'm dealing all poison and disease damage. So replacing Swamp Raiders would be ill-advised for me with this build. Now, any other build? Yeah, potentially. You could run that. So, food for thought. Gotta sacrifice the gain. Oh, no problem, Elliot. No problem. Morning, Wiggy. What's up? I'm about to call this. Mystic, do you have a written builds? No, I'm about to start websites here in a couple weeks. I have everything. I was just kind of like, okay, I just need the time to do it. No, there's no other excuse than that. I just need to set the time aside to do it. So, Swamp Raiders is a great set. It's an awesome set. But to keep the uptime 100%, I have to use a magical ability. I've tried using enchantments. Enchantments work. I will not lie to you. I can use an enchantment and I can get it to work. Problem of it is my uptime is not consistent due to the enchantment's CD cooldown effect. So I'm forced to use a magical ability to keep uptime 100%. I'm forced to do it. So it's just the way it goes. But yeah, there it is, guys. I'm sorry I didn't get a queue. I was really hoping to run some dungeons with this and kind of show players how viable Bobo builds are. But Bobo builds are viable. Why? Hawkeye passive. Keep in mind, Hawkeye passive. Bow dual wield is not maintaining 5 stacks. It's not. It's just not. Because the bar swap will never allow you to do it. Right? The bar swap goes against the stack. It's just the way it is. Like, I use, I don't like typically like Two Fang because the drop. Well, I use it on my DK with my Asunder build. Someone's like, why? And I'm like, because I anticipate the 2-second drop, but with what? The dots to keep the 3% consistent. So I anticipate the 2 seconds, 1 to 2 to drop between the rotation for the heavy attack for my Sunder Flame proc to be applied, and then doing what? Allowing that 3 seconds with the dot application to maintain. So I'm already aware of it. So it's been calculated into the configuration. So that's why I do it. That's why I roll the Asunder build with the DK. So I'm using the Sunder Flame and I'm using Two Fang. And I don't use on Maelstrom, Bet, nothing. Asylum, why? Because I can't. I'm using a two-hander. Why? I'm getting that finisher. I'm getting a lot more sustain, with mob clears and stuff. I can sustain a lot better. I can do a heavy attack, get that follow-up passive, increase all of my effects by 10%. So believe it, I'm going to do it. Just the way it works. Just the way it is, man. So, hey, to each their own. All right, guys, I'm going to let you guys go. I want to thank everybody for watching. I really wanted to do this video, especially for players like Scott out there who players are being completely toxic and being like, oh, this is the only way to roll. Of course it is. Of course it is. Remember, guys, DKs couldn't heal. Sorks couldn't heal. Nightblades couldn't heal. Sorks couldn't tank. So on and so forth and so on and so forth. It keeps going on. But this is Elder Scrolls. Embrace the possibilities. I want to thank you guys for watching. I'm Mysticraven, the ESO Daily. And once again and always, have a nice day.